Hello everybody, Big Biddy back again with another video, and today we're talking about how can you get customers through the courier exchange. Now, I got asked a question from someone. They had a strategy. It's actually a good strategy about joining the CX next year. They were looking at doing and how they could grow their customer base through the courier exchange. It's a great question, and it is a legitimate strategy. You can build a customer base using the CX, but we have to look at the two different types of customers. So this video is actually going to be split into two separate parts. One is going to be regarding customers you can generally get through the CX. The other part, which will be dropped tomorrow, will be about getting customers which are a lot more difficult to get on the CX and are actually easier to get not on the CX. So in my eyes, there are two different types of customers. There's shipper customers and there's end user customers. So the shipper customers are, as it sounds, it's shippers who give you lots of work. They're not just one-off customers or something you just bid on and win a job. They are people that come to you directly, shippers that come to you directly. And end user customers are obviously customers that you there's no middleman. You are direct with the supplier, customer, whatever company it may be. So they're the two different types. Now, the CX is very good at getting, or very useful for you to get shipper customers. It's not very useful for getting end user customers, and we'll go into this. So the reason why it's not very easy to get end user customers through the CX is when you go into a job, you're actually working on behalf of someone else. You're working on behalf of another shipper, so you can't go in and say, I am Big Beardy, I work for Big Beardy Couriers. I know you're doing work, this is the shipper you're using, but give me a chance, because then you're poaching and you can't do it. There is one way you can do it, which isn't poaching, but it's very difficult to do, and it is sort of borderline, and you might want to be careful. I don't recommend doing it, but there is sort of when you're on a job, you can get an end user customer despite working for someone else. But we'll go into that at the end. I don't want to muddy the water with that. Yes. So, shipper customers, like I said, they are the customers you're going to get through the CX. They are the contacts you're going to make, because they're the people you're speaking to. You will bid on jobs or phone up, or however it may be, and you will be speaking to shippers. And this is how you get your shipper customers. People are going to phone you directly and give you work. You won't have your own customers, but you'll have shipper customers. So, how does that work? The CX, I think, it's very good at a lot of things. It's not magnificent at any one thing. It's a bit like a Swiss Army knife, if you look at it this way. It's got a lot of tools on it, but most people only use two tools. Most people use the knife and the bottle opener. That's what I usually use on a Swiss Army knife. And what I mean by that is most people use the bidding system and they use the invoice system, and that is it. And they're letting everything else that's on the courier exchange go to waste, because there's a lot of other stuff on there that can really help you if you read the information properly. For example, when a job pops up on the courier exchange, you are given a lot of information you don't even realise. You're giving the shipper who's shipping it, obviously where you got to pick up, where you got to drop off, and all those sort of things. But that's not what we're interested in here. We're interested in that shipper. We can find out just by who's posting that job. We know obviously they've got a customer in that area. We know we can get their phone number, we can get their address, we can have a look at their reviews to see how many jobs they're sort of putting on the CX, because if someone's got 1,000 reviews, they're obviously a big company. If they've got 7, 8, 9 or 10, they're a lot smaller. So we can get all that information from the courier exchange just by someone posting a job. You can also see patterns when people are posting jobs. There will be that job that always pops up at the same time on the same day every week from the same shipper, so they have that customer in that area. You can tell if they're local shippers just by looking at their address. So there's a lot of information there you can use to build contacts. I've said this a million times, I'll say it a million more. Building contacts, speaking to shippers, building your influence and your the people you're talking to is a massive tool in this industry, because the more contacts you have, the more opportunity you have for work, and the more opportunity you have for work, the better position you are in. So I'll give you a little story. I've mentioned this before. One of the first jobs I did, I didn't win. I lost the job. Well, I was actually too late bidding on it, but I phoned the shipper. And the reason I phoned that shipper was I could see they were local. I could see there was a small shipper, and I could see like this was a job that was close to me. That's why I bid on it. From that one shipper, we got talking. He started giving me loads of work. From him, I got 3 more shippers who are not on the CX who now phone me regularly. So getting in contact with small shippers is really important. When you speak to big shippers, it's a lot more difficult to sort of be their guy, if that makes sense. Because they have so many customers, they have so many shippers, they have things going all over the country. You know, you will phone up someone, let's use Crown Couriers, for example. You will phone them up, and every time you phone them up, you will speak to someone different. When you're speaking to a small shipper, a 1-man team or a 2-man team, it's a lot easier to get in there. So that's why you want to be looking at who's posting the jobs and how big they are. I don't count the big companies. There's one big company I do a lot of work for and I speak to a lot of the time. But I don't count the big ones like Crown and Speedy Freight. They're not shipper customers to me. I get work from them quite regularly, but that's because I've got a bid for it. They're never phoning me regularly. Small shippers are great, especially if they're local to you, to get work from. Because if you get in with them, they will keep throwing work at you. And that's what you want. It might not be every day. They're a small operation. But if they're sending you 2 jobs a week, you know, if you get a job from a Monday and a Wednesday, well, that's 2 days that you've got your first job of the day sorted, and you don't have to bid and compete against people. So you want to make those contacts, and you want to make them your shipper customers. You want to make an effort. What you could do, and I don't necessarily recommend doing this, but it is a good way of learning your area. And I actually did this when my van got, I had an accident in my van, someone went into the back of me, what was it, nearly 2 years ago now, 1.5 years ago. And I was waiting for my replacement van, and I waited for a week through the insurance. And what I did for that week when I was waiting was, I literally, every single job that pinged up in my area on the CX, I looked at it. I looked at who the shipper was, where it was collecting from, where it was delivering to, how big the shipper was, where they were based, what's their phone number, who's the contact. And I sort of stored this information, and it actually did me a great benefit, because when I got the van, I had 2 or 3 more shippers who I didn't really register were actually in my area, and I started targeting them every time a job came up. Even if it wasn't a very good job, I would phone them up because I was trying to get in with them, and it worked. I got a couple of really good contacts off that. So trying to get these shippers on your side is great, and this is where the CX comes in. And like I said, the CX has all that information for you. This is where the CX works really well. People will always bitch about the CX. It'll always have problems. Like I said, it's got lots of really good features, but it's not great. It's not the best invoicing system in the world, but it's a good invoicing system. It's not the best way of winning work, but it's a good way of winning work. You know, its database is not the best you will ever find, but it's a good database of information. And what you're paying for, and what a lot of people sort of neglect, is that information. Go on there, figure out where people are, find the people, especially if you're new. If you're new to the industry and you're trying to get in there, you want to get those local shippers on board, because it's a partnership when you're their driver. You want to do a really good job so they look good and get more work. The more work they get, they will pass to you, and then you grow together. That's what you're trying to do. And if you can get 3 or 4 local shippers in your area, small shippers, and maybe one big one who's phoning you because they've got that one job that's next to your house every week, get them on board, you will start growing a lot quicker than you think. But you need to use the information that the CX is actually giving to you. So this is why I say it's like a Swiss Army knife. When I very first started, it was bid on work, invoice, bid on work, invoice. And then I realised I'm missing a massive trick here. I need to be phoning people. I need to be using all that information that's just sat there. You can access it. It's easy to access. You just go on the computer. Go on their homepage. It's got little tabs. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself right now. How much do you actually go onto the CX and actually go through the website and know what everything does? Not many people. You know how to bid. You know how to invoice. You know how to check your accounts or you know, see who owes you money. Of course you do. They're the most important things. But do you actually know how to go onto someone's profile, figure out where they're based, go on their forums and find out what prices they recommend, and all this other stuff that's on there that is hidden away, but just hidden away. You open one door and it's there for you to access. So this is what the CX is great at. finding shipper customers, putting you in contact with people. I've always said it's a stepping stone, and this is why I say it's a stepping stone, the CX. For new people, it's a great way to get on and get forward and meet people. And then for people like me who've been doing it for a while, I've got a few of my own customers. I don't use the CX necessarily to get work that first job. The CX for me is now what it's actually intended for. It was started as a backhaul service. The CX for me now is a backhaul service because I generally have my own customers and shippers messaging me. That's where I'm at. I'm not at the shipper point yet, which is a much bigger thing. So I'll keep on using the CX because it's going to make me money and it's going to keep me fresh with contacts. So, let's go into that last little bit before I leave you. That last thing, how do you get end user customers through the CX? And it's a little bit iffy, but I've had one situation where this has happened, so it doesn't happen often, and it actually never came to anything. So, but I'm going to give you the example. So, you do a job, you go somewhere to pick up. I'll give you my example. I went to pick up. It was like plant pots or big. I think they were actually for a festival. Big like pots to put beers in from a bloke who makes tables and chairs, and he got the contract to do this thing. I went to pick up. When I got there, he didn't know who I was. He had never heard of the shipper before. He didn't know what the heck. He knew someone was coming to. He thought just a man in a van's coming to pick up the stuff. Never heard of the CX. Had no idea about shippers or anything. And he said to me, "Are you local?" And I said, "Yeah, I live down the road." Because I was. I don't live far away. He went, "Can I have your contact number? Because occasionally I move stuff." I made it clear to him that I was going in there for this shipper. I'm here from Speedy Freight, Crown Couriers, ABC Couriers. Who knows who I was in for that day? I don't remember. He went, "Yeah, but you can do the odd job for me, can't you?" So I said, "I'm working for them today, but he's not technically their customer. The customer was the person I was delivering to. So is it poaching if I give him my contact information?" Now, I would say it's not, because he knows nothing that's going on. But I made it very clear, and I said, at the moment, I'm working for this company. I'm here. I didn't even explain the situation of how the CX works. And I left it at that. I said, "I'll tell you what. I'll leave you some information here. You can use it if you want." Man with van. Boom. I think I gave him my name and told him to look on. You can find me on Facebook. And then I left it. Now, some people might say that's poaching. I don't think it is, but it's because I'm working on behalf of I gave him my actual name. I didn't give a company name, and I said, "You can look me up on Facebook." I think that's all I gave him, if I remember correctly. I never got a job off of it. But for me, that's not necessarily poaching, because I have not taken a customer off someone else. He didn't have a shipper. He didn't have a courier. So, but then again, it's still, because I'm working on behalf of a company, it's still a bit, you have to word it very carefully. You have to make them clear of the situation. Now, if I had done that at the other end with the customer, that is definitely poaching. So, like I said, it's difficult to win work getting an end user on the CX, because put it this way, I didn't approach him. He approached me. He was looking for a courier. That's where I think that if someone approaches you, if you don't say anything, they go, "Hey, do you work for yourself?" And then it's a bit different. But I think I'm getting a bit muddled up here and making it a bit more complicated than it is. But I'm just trying to explain how difficult it is actually to get end user customers through the courier exchange. And is that poaching? Is it not poaching? And poaching's bad. So, despite me muddling everything up at the end, I'm trying to think it through in my own head. But it's very difficult to get end user customers. It's very easy, and there's a lot of good ways of getting shipper customers through the courier exchange. So that's what you want to do when you get on the courier exchange. If you're not on already, or you're new to it, or you've been on it a while and you just find it difficult, have a look at what jobs are moving in your area. Every job that pings up, check out the shipper, because they change constantly as well. This business is it's a high turnover business. People will join the industry and leave the industry very quickly. So you want to be constantly looking for those new shippers that you can work with. So, thank you for listening. I love your comments. This is why I like your comments, because I get asked questions and I get to think about it and I try and explain it to you. Not my best, I don't think, this time, but I don't care. I've done it now. So, anyway, but yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please check out my new channel, Big Beardy Show. Link down below. Be safe out there. Have a great day.